Good evening, Shortcuts. Stephen here, and welcome to the last Shortcuts list of 2024. I hope I've made it a good one. In fact, there'll be two lists as usual. There'll be a genre list, which we'll go through now, and there'll be a classic rock list, which has got some crackers on it, which we will go through next. So this price list will go out 9 p.m. sharp this Wednesday, which will be the 16th, 17th, 18th of December, 9 p.m. sharp. If you would like to receive the price list, drop me an email, shortcutsrecords@gmail.com, and I will add you to the list. We are going to cover jazz, blues, samba, fusion, and a few other things, folk as well, and a few other things in between. All right, this is the record we are going to start with. This is Nina Simone's debut album. Now, it has a few different names. A lot of people call it Little Girl Blue. In this case, I prefer, you can see it's got the obi, you can see jazz as played in an exclusive side street club. And there she is, resting on the seat, and on the back, you've got everything in English. This is an absolutely beautiful mono Japanese repress. A rare commodity in jazz is a new singer who has something different to say and sufficient technique and voice with which to express it. Man, this album has an incredible musical, cultural, political, and critical story. 1958, Nina Simone had been playing in clubs from a very young age. I can't believe how nice condition this is. And this is the obi for those who like that type of stuff. And it's on the original Bethlehem label in fantastic condition. So this album's interesting because it is like the intersection of classical music. Obviously, she loved Bach. That's pretty obvious from some of her arrangements, but it's also jazzy and bluesy in places. It hints at the activism that she would clearly develop later in her career. 1958 would really have been the height of the civil rights struggle. And so a little bit later in this list, I have a Billie Holiday album, and the linkage between Nina Simone and Billie Holiday with songs like Strange Fruit is pretty unique. Even back then, critics were kind of blown away by how distinctive her voice was. A deep, throaty, sexy, rich, emotive, versatile voice. But part of what I personally have always loved about Nina is her piano playing. And when an album focuses on her piano playing, that's when I'm in love with it. I Put a Spell on You is also wonderful, wonderful album, but the orchestral arrangements kind of, to a certain extent, took away from the piano playing, but it created its own beast. Pastel Blues has kind of acoustic guitar and other things. Those are my three favorite Nina albums, mostly. Yeah, I'd say so. And so, this one, no, imagine right off the bat having such masterful integration of classical techniques and jazz. It's just wonderful. And of course, My Baby Just Cares for Me was rediscovered. I remember that song from when I was a kid. I think it was a car commercial in the UK, and it just became a thing. And Nina's been part of my life ever since. And I utterly love this album. It's an absolutely beautiful, beautiful copy. Yeah, pretty a foundational record for me. So yeah, I'm hoping somebody loves it as much as I do. And now I mentioned Billie Holiday. There's quite a female focus, at least to the first half of this list. This is the second record on tonight's list, Songs for Distinguished Lovers. This is an album that was given to me by someone who's on this list. Hello, sir. You know who you are. And I've loved it ever since. And every time I see it now, I grab a copy. It's on the classic black Verve label. So this is Nina Simone's debut was 58. Songs for Distinguished Lovers is 57. But that is actually later period, Billie Holiday. And you can hear it in her voice. Whilst she's still a completely stellar singer, her voice sounds quite different to what it did in her early part of her career. And to say that Billie Holiday lived a life would be somewhat of an understatement. But what lends this album a richness that in some ways distinguishes it even from Nina Simone's record is the band that she's playing with. Legends like Ben Webster, Harry Edison. What you get, even with the opening track, so the opening track on Songs for Distinguished Lovers, there's beautiful notes on the back of this, Day In, Day Out, features a piano solo, it features a sax solo, but it also features a really cool guitar solo. This band that plays with her are obviously in awe of her, but they're absolutely amazing. It is a crack band. And so what you get is that incredible pleasure of those standards that she sings and the way that she sings them, but also the musicianship is absolutely ridiculous. And there's no one, I think, who can handle kind of love and resilience and heartbreak like Billie Holiday. It's just such an emotional record, but really profound. And, you know, this is not the type of record that I ever thought that I would really want to listen to when I was younger. It really isn't. But I think it's a masterpiece. And I'm really pleased that it was introduced into my life. I would never say that I'm going to be a vocal jazz aficionado. But really, you know, Nina Simone and Billie Holiday are legendary canonical figures for a reason. And, you know, they're so intimate. It's just so balanced. It's just amazing. Now, this next female artist is so different to the previous two, but that's part of the reason that I love these lists. This is Beth Carvalho, and I'm not even going to pretend to know how to pronounce this. Das Bencos que virao como novos amanhas. This is a white label promo of one of Beth Carvalho's key Brazilian samba records. Now, in Brazil, this lady is a legend, like crazy famous, to the extent that one of her songs was sent up to the space station. And I think that there's two samba records in a row here. One that is Carvalho's kind of vocal samba arrangements, but also there's a classic to follow. But these types of records just cemented her legacy. And this idea of various different styles of samba music is one that I can't even pretend to say I've got my head even halfway around. But she's not nicknamed the godmother of samba for no reason. And I love it when these people dedicate their lives to preserving a musical tradition, like her and Rai Cooder and others. I mean, they're, you know, they're doing the God's work, I think. And there's also something about this record. I played side one earlier with Melissa just to see if we could, how we felt about it. And we were talking about it afterwards, and it's got a kind of an Afro feel to it as well. So I don't know whether that was deliberate or whether there's linkages back to that style of kind of North African music, but it's very clear when you listen to it. And therefore, that makes it, really, really enjoyable. And there's a few other kind of Brazilian superstars that appear on there. So for those of you who like that sort of stuff, I think that's something that this list is all about, because we like to do things that are different. Now, this one, though, is more of a classic work. This is Jazz Samba by Stan Getz and Charlie Byrd. Now, look at this for a gatefold. It is absolutely beautiful. On Verve label again. Another black label, Verve, Japanese press. These records sound so great. I'm just going to read you a little note at the back. Jazz Samba, Stan Getz, Charlie Byrd. Two jazz soloists play fresh contemporary sounds from modern Brazilian folk music. The jazz of America is on Verve. Now, this is truly a cornerstone album, because whilst you've got Stan Getz playing just this really melodic and beautiful tenor saxophone, you've got Charlie Byrd playing his style of really delicate guitar, and the rhythms of Brazil are played in a really breezy, open, affectionate, alluring way. And it really did kind of popularize bossa nova. I think this album was 62 or 63, and it became a bit of a phenomenon. And the opening track, if I can remember the name of it, is it Dessa Fanado, was massive. It was like, a true crossover kind of song. And so the whole album's just a delight. It's I have the Verve acoustic series that I won in a competition once. And so I've had this record now for quite a few years. And I really, really like it. And I don't see it very often, not in that condition. And that condition is spectacular. And so, this thing won Grammys and did all sorts of amazing things for those two musicians. But it's a really, really, really just cool record. It really works. All right. I told you this list was interesting. Now, this next record is a wild divergence from what we've been listening to or talking about up to now. I've been on a bit of a Miles Davis thing this last while. I got a box set 3 or 4 months ago. I have a video on the channel where I opened it. I have been addicted to that thing. It was done by Vinyl Me Please. It's the electric period of Miles Davis, and it features Big Fan, Jack Johnson, Live Evil, oh my gosh, I can't believe I've forgotten the name of it. It'll come back to me. There's In a Silent Way. It's an amazing, amazing thing. And what is even more incredible is that there are a series of electric jazz fusion records that Miles Davis made primarily in Japan that didn't make the box set, that I think are probably better than many of the things that are in the box set. So this is Agartha by Miles Davis. Now this is a gatefold. That is the inside. And the reason I'm showing you the inside is because a little bit later, I've got this, which is a Japan-only compilation of Miles Davis music that kind of rips off a series of photographs that was made of Miles at that time, when he was married to Betty Davis, who kind of influenced so much of his style. So Agartha by Miles Davis. This is the first electric fusion, jazz fusion Miles record that I ever owned. I owned this before I got the box set, only because it came in one of the boxes from Shinjuku a while back with a note saying this album is amazing. And when the guys do that, I always take their word for it. This thing features a band that he took to Japan and had a number of guitarists, and gosh, I'm not going to be able to remember names at this point, but they recorded a number of shows, and all of them have been released as various double albums. Black Magus, Pangea, Agartha, and there are those who have their favorites, and everyone debates because these are quite polarizing records. You will have a 20-minute song that features just a completely infectious funk groove, and then all of a sudden you will get the most incendiary guitar solo that will just kind of melt your ears, and it happens all the time. And so it is a little bit more avant-garde than some of his other music, but also just, I put it on and I just like sit down and I close my eyes, and it is transporting music. It is by a mile my favorite record on tonight's list. These records were really, really popular in Japan because, of course, they were recorded in Japan, which I guess kind of meant that there was this connection. So you've got these interludes, and the theme from Jack Johnson is like nearly 26 minutes of music. It's kind of it's just madness, really. I mean, I don't know what he was thinking. Often he is only tangentially involved in the song, but then you'll hear the trumpet enter and you'll realize that he's conducting the whole thing. These records are just incredible, but they're not for everyone. So they come with a warning. But I love it. Agartha, Agartha by Miles Davis, and I'll just throw this one in too. This is the new gold disc, best of Miles Davis. This was a series that was only done in Japan. Now, what's really cool about this is it goes from Round Midnight, Milestones, So What, Talking. So it's got that first kind of classic quintet with John Coltrane, Cannonball Adderley, but then it goes all the way to Big Fun. And so therefore you get the feel of Miles all the way from acoustic kind of hard bop right the way through to when he was challenging everyone with the most outrageous jazz ever made. If you think that anyone else did jazz, funk, and rock better than Miles, then you're completely mad. It is a truly astonishing thing. Now, I'm going to go through the rest of these a little bit more quickly. There's a few here. Now, I've been on a bit of a Quincy Jones trip as well since he passed away so recently. And it was quite fun. I took Finbar to see the basketball, see the Sydney Kings this afternoon. And we played music to each other on the way back. And he was playing me a bunch of kind of Juice WRLD and Grin and all these and all this other actually music was really cool. But he and I both share a love of MF Doom, the recently a few years ago deceased kind of hip hop dude out of New York. But his, I think, landmark album Operation Doomsday features a classic sample from The Dude, which was the 100 Ways track that he did with James Ingram that won bucket loads of Grammys, and I don't know how many Grammys this record won, maybe 5, who knows, it's a lot anyway. But MF Doom sampled 100 Ways on Rhymes and Dimes, which is the opening track to Operation Doomsday, and Finbar was blown away. This record was just a commercial and critical juggernaut, and literally 10 months after he releases The Dude, Michael Jackson releases Thriller. And Quincy Jones's legend is just cemented. Just amazing. So there you go. Talking about jazz, sophistication, and pop. That's Quincy Jones's The Dude. All right, one more jazz record, and it only happens to be one of the best ever. This is Cool Struttin' by Sonny Clark. I think at least 25 of you, if not 30 of you, have now picked this record up from me, albeit in the first few years. I haven't had very many copies in the last little while. If any of you have any love for piano jazz, Cool Struttin' is about as feel-good as jazz music ever gets. It's got Art Farmer, Jackie McLean, Paul Chambers, Philly Joe Jones, just a classic Blue Note, kind of late 50s list. Sonny Clark, his career tragically short. As you know, Dial S for Sonny was on last week's list, but this is his masterpiece. Whilst I love Dial S for Sonny, this is the one. It's absolutely superb. Everything about it is quintessential, iconic. Give it a listen if you haven't done so already. All right, I've got a few blues records, including a record some of you know that I love. It's Junior Wells' classic Chicago blues on tap. One of my favorite ever sleeves. It just makes me thirsty. I very rarely see it with an Obi. It's as brilliant as it looks. It's dirty, steamy, honking blues. Showcases Junior Wells' harmonica and really charismatic vocals. I love it. There is a quite rare and hard to find compilation of B.B. King's work called Style for Beginners. B.B. King has such a massive discography. It's sometimes a little bit hard to know where to begin, but I really like this one because it focuses very much on kind of his killer guitar work as opposed to the later work that he did, which was kind of a bit more horn driven and a bit more kind of funk and soul driven. But it's really, really nice. And it includes, I'm pretty sure it includes The Thrill Is Gone. I'm just going to double check. The Sweet 16, Hummingbird, Got My Mojo Working, a Lucille, maybe not The Thrill Is Gone, but it's, got a lot of the kind of really cool guitar blues stuff, and it's really quite cheap as well. All right, a few things to finish off. I'm going to run through pretty quick. This is one that the guys from Shinjuku added in, and it is a real curiosity. It is a Japanese folk band called the Dylan 2, and the album is called Second, because it's their second album, and it is what it says in the tin. It is Japanese guitar-based folk music that really does sound like Bob Dylan. It is the most weird, bizarre, but rather beautiful thing, and it's on Spotify. So give it a tinkle and see what you make of it. And then I've got a few to finish. For those of you who haven't seen or heard some of the Japanese records show their absolute love for Marilyn Monroe, look at that for a sleeve. There's the insert. So there's a Marilyn Monroe compilation. There's Midnight Believer by B.B. King, which is more horn-driven than the Compete for Beginners that I was just showing you earlier. There's a US first press of Buddy Miles's More Miles to the Gallon. Just an absolutely stellar US first press of Buddy Miles, who played with Jimi Hendrix, of course, and that will be really quite cheap. And then finally, on the original green and blue Atlantic, the classic Midnight Mover by Wilson Pickett. There you have tonight's genre list of soul, folk, blues, and jazz. Please leave a comment or subscribe. Do all that wonderful stuff that makes a big difference to me and apparently makes a big difference to the algorithms to help other people find me. If you can, I'd very much appreciate it. And price list will go out 9 p.m. sharp Sydney time this Wednesday, the 18th. If you would like to be on that list, drop me an email, shortcutsrecordsaus@gmail.com. Thank you.